I stood at the edge of Eternal Rest Cemetery, my shoes sinking into the damp Georgia grass, as my son, Michael, faced a small crowd and declared, "Mom's not welcome at Lily's funeral. It's better this way." I'm Helen Reed, 70 years old, a retired magazine editor who spent 3 decades crafting stories for an Atlanta community journal. The air was thick with the scent of azaleas from my nearby suburban home, where a faded 4th of July banner still hung from last year's neighborhood cookout. Lily, my 3-month-old granddaughter, had slipped away from a heart defect, and I'd paid $12,000, every penny of my savings from years of editing, under tight deadlines for her plot beneath this very ground. Michael's words, sharp and public, echoed through the gathered mourners, stripping me bare before neighbors who turned to stare. I'd raised Michael alone after my husband, David, died, pouring my heart into his music lessons, college fees, and even his lavish wedding. I'd held Lily in the hospital, her fragile breaths fading under my touch, and now he was casting me out of her final moment. Clara Hensley, my neighbor, approached me after, her eyes wide. "Helen, I thought you'd be leading the service." Michael said, "You're too weak to handle it." Weak. I manage my Chase account online, run book club on Zoom, and walk our Oakline streets daily. The betrayal cut deeper when Clara handed me a cemetery notice, slipped into her mailbox by mistake. It was a contract amendment, stating I'd transferred Lily's plot to Michael's wife, Sarah, with my signature forged in his unmistakable scrawl. "Would you let your child publicly shame you, or would you fight to reclaim your place?" The cemetery was quiet now. The crowd dispersed, but Michael's words lingered like a bruise. I drove home, my hands gripping the wheel, and parked in my driveway, where the mailbox overflowed with flyers. Inside, I opened a keepsake box, my fingers brushing a silver wedding ring engraved with "Forever," a relic from David. It was the only thing tying me to the family I'd built. I'd spent 40 years sacrificing for Michael, late nights editing to pay for his dreams, weekends cheering at his recitals. Now, he'd not only banned me, but stolen my gift to Lily, the plot I'd secured with the last of my retirement savings. The cemetery notice lay on my kitchen table, its forged signature glaring. I'd seen Michael's handwriting 1,000 times on birthday cards, school notes, his wedding vows. This was no mistake. It was deliberate. I checked my Chase account on my laptop, a habit from years of tracking budgets for the magazine. The joint account I shared with Michael, meant for emergencies, showed a $5,000 withdrawal, dated the day Lily passed. He'd called me that night, voice breaking, begging me to come to the hospital. I'd paid for parking, meals, anything he needed, thinking he was grieving. Now, the transfer led to a PayPal account I didn't recognize. My stomach churned. Clara's text buzzed again. "Michael told everyone at the coffee shop you're losing it. Said you can't handle the funeral." I wasn't losing anything except my trust in him. I drove back to the cemetery that afternoon, needing to see the plot. Tom Whitaker, the groundskeeper, a wiry man in his 60s, was raking leaves. "Helen, didn't expect you here," he said, frowning. I showed him the notice. His face hardened. "Michael said you gave the plot to Sarah willingly. That's your signature, ain't it?" I shook my head, my voice steady. "It's not mine, Tom." He promised to check the cemetery's records. Back home, I sat at my kitchen table, the ring's weight heavy on my finger. I'd edited stories of betrayal, but living one was different. The next morning, I opened my email, hoping for an apology. Instead, I found a message from Michael, sent at 2:17 a.m. "Mom, stay out of this. It's for the best." The same words he'd used at the cemetery, now typed in cold pixels. I printed the email, taping it to the fridge beside a photo of Lily's baptism, her tiny hands clutching my finger. I'd been her rock and Hawkins when I learned Michael had lied about my frailty. Forging my signature felt like a theft, not just of money, but of my role in her life. I called Clara, who'd been my friend since we organized block parties together. Over coffee at her house, she shared more. "I overheard Michael and Sarah at the cafe," she said, her voice low. "They were with a lawyer, talking about securing the family assets. Sounded like they want your house." My blood ran cold. I'd taught Michael to value family late nights, helping with his homework, saving for his future. Now, he was plotting to take everything. I pulled out an old journal of his, left in my attic from his teenage years. A 1999 entry read, "Mom's too easy to convince. I can get what I want." The words stung, a hint of the man he'd become. I returned my laptop, my editor's instinct kicking in. I'd spent years digging for truth in stories, and this was no different. Using skills from my community classes on social media, I searched Sarah's Instagram. Her profile was public, filled with posts about new beginnings that coincided with Lily's hospital stay. The PayPal transfers led to Bright Future LLC, her boutique baby clothing business. My money, meant for emergencies, was funding her venture. I saved screenshots, my hands steady despite the ache in my chest. That evening, I walked to the community center where I'd once coordinated magazine events. The bulletin board held flyers for the funeral, listing Sarah as the contact, not me. I'd been erased from my granddaughter's legacy. I stood there, the ring on my finger, a reminder of the promises I'd kept to David, to Lily. Michael thought he could silence me, but he'd forgotten who I was. I'd spent years uncovering stories. Now I'd uncover his. I went home, the weight of the day settling in. My living room, lined with photos of Michael's childhood, felt like a museum of a life I no longer recognized. I opened my keepsake box again, the ring glinting under the lamp. I'd edited stories of resilience, of people rising from betrayal. This was my story now. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and began searching for answers, my fingers typing, with the precision of decades spent crafting truth. Michael had taken my money, my role, my dignity, but he'd underestimated me. Bafta Hensley's voice trembled over the phone, her words spilling out in a rush as she stood in the dim light of a Buckhead cafe. Helen, I just saw Michael and Sarah with a lawyer, talking about cutting you out of the family will. I gripped my coffee mug in my Atlanta kitchen, the steam curling up past a photo of Lily's baptism taped to the fridge. The azaleas outside my window glowed faintly under streetlights, a stark contrast to the betrayal Clara described. I'd spent decades as a magazine editor, chasing truth for Atlanta's community stories. And now, at 70, I was piecing together my own. Michael's public ban from Lily's funeral, my granddaughter, whose cemetery plot I'd paid $12,000 for, still burned, but this was worse. He wasn't just erasing me. He was plotting to take everything I had left. I thanked Clara, hung up, and opened my laptop, the glow casting shadows across my dining table. My Chase app showed another $5,000 gone from our joint account, withdrawn the day Lily passed. Michael had called me that night, voice breaking, begging me to the hospital. I'd covered parking, meals, anything he needed, thinking he was grieving. Now, the transfer traced to a PayPal account labeled Bright Future LLC. I typed the name into Google, my editor's instinct sharp. Sarah's LinkedIn popped up, listing her as founder of a boutique baby clothing line. A post dated the week of Lily's death bragged about new investments. My money, meant for emergencies, was fueling her business. I screenshot the page, my fingers steady despite the anger rising in my chest. I drove to a nearby park, the one where I'd pushed Michael on swings decades ago, now quiet under a canopy of pines. The crisp evening air grounded me as I called Denise Harper, my old friend and a retired accountant in Macon, over speakerphone. I shared Clara's tip and the bank transfer. Helen, this sounds like a coordinated plan, Denise said, her voice firm. Check your estate documents. They might be targeting more than your savings. I nodded, though she couldn't see me, and promised to dig deeper. Back home, I pulled a locked box from my closet, one I hadn't opened since David's death. Inside was our will, naming Michael as executor. A sticky note in David's handwriting read, "Trust, but verify." My throat tightened had he sensed Michael's greed even then. The next morning, I visited the local library, a place I'd sourced stories for years. Using a public computer, I logged into my email, hoping for an apology from Michael. Instead, I found a forwarded message from Clara, recorded on her phone at the cafe. Michael's voice was low but clear. "Mom's too old to manage her assets. We'll take over before she notices." Sarah chimed in. "The lawyer says it's airtight if we act fast." I saved the recording, my jaw set. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a calculated theft of my future. I emailed the file to Denise, asking her to analyze it with her accountant's eye. "This is evidence, Helen," she replied. "Hold on to it." I walked to a nearby diner, its neon sign buzzing, to clear my head. The waitress, a young woman named Tara, recognized me from my magazine days. "Mrs. Reed, you look troubled," she said, pouring coffee. I shrugged, not ready to share, but her kindness steadied me. I scribbled notes on a napkin: bank transfers, Sarah's business, the will, my editor's mind-mapped connections, each one a step toward exposing Michael. I wasn't the frail mother he'd painted to our neighbors. I'd spent years uncovering truths for others. Now, I'd do it for myself. That afternoon, I searched my attic for Michael's old belongings, hoping for clues. Among dusty boxes, I found his teenage journal, its pages brittle. A 1998 entry chilled me. Mom believes anything I say. Easy to get cash when I need it. I closed the journal, my resolve hardening. I wasn't grieving anymore. I was strategizing. I downloaded a budgeting app Denise recommended, linking it to my accounts to track future withdrawals. If Michael tried again, I'd know instantly. I met Clara at her house that evening, her living room cluttered with knitting projects. She handed me a flyer from the funeral, listing Sarah as the contact, not me. I found this at the community center, she said. They're acting like you don't exist. I took the flyer. It's bold print, a slap. I told Clara about the recording and journal. You're building a case, Helen, she said, eyes wide. What's next? I leaned forward, my voice low. I'm going to make sure they can't hide. The next day, I drove to a small office supply store, buying a burner phone to send anonymous tips if needed. Back home, I tested it, texting Denise a code word, truth. She replied instantly, ready. My plan was taking shape, gather evidence, protect my assets, expose their lies. I opened my laptop again, checking Sarah's LinkedIn for updates. A new post thanked an anonymous investor for Bright Future LLC's growth. I saved it, my editor's eye catching the lie. I walked to my backyard, where a single rose bush bloomed, a gift from David, for our 20th anniversary. I clipped a flower, its petals soft, and set it on my desk. It wasn't a symbol, just a reminder of what I'd built, a life of love, now under attack. I called Pastor James Reed, my cousin, and a local minister, arranging to meet. I need your help, I said, my voice calm but firm. He agreed, unaware of the storm I was about to unleash. Late that night, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stay out of our business, Helen. I stared at it, my pulse quickening. Michael or Sarah had my number, but how did they know I was digging? I saved the text, adding it to my growing file. They thought they could scare me, but they'd misjudged. I wasn't backing down. The microfilm reader, words softly in the Atlanta Library's archive room, casting a pale glow over steel cabinets stuffed with decades of records. I scrolled through digitized pages, my editor's instincts honed from years shaping stories for a local magazine. Michael's public ban from Lily's funeral, my granddaughter, whose $12,000 cemetery plot I'd paid for with my savings, had left me raw. But Clara's recording of his cafe meeting with Sarah, plotting to seize my assets, turned my pain into purpose. I needed hard evidence to dismantle their scheme, and the library, where I'd sourced countless articles, was my battleground. I navigated the digital archive, fingers steady on the keyboard, searching for anything tied to my late husband, David. A 2009 file stopped me cold, a scanned letter from him, buried among old magazine submissions, titled for Helen, If I'm Gone. My breath caught as I clicked it open. David's words revealed Michael, years ago, had borrowed $10,000 from his retirement fund without permission, promising repayment that never came. I've set up a secret account for you, Helen, at First Coastal Credit Union, he wrote. $15 in your name only. He can't touch it. My pulse surged. This was a weapon they didn't know I held. I printed the letter, its ink sharp against the faded scan, and slipped it into my purse. The library's hum faded as I stepped into the warm Atlanta air. I drove to a small coffee shop on Peachtree Street, its worn wooden tables etched with initials. Over a black coffee, I called Denise Harper, my friend and retired accountant in Macon. I found something big, I said, reading David's letter over the line. Michael's been lying for years. Denise's voice was crisp. Verify that account now, Helen. If it's active, you've got power. I opened First Coastal's website on my phone, using credentials David had scribbled in the letter. The account existed, $15,000, untouched, mine alone. I sipped my coffee, its bitterness fueling my focus. Michael's teenage journal, uncovered yesterday, had hinted at his greed, but this letter confirmed a pattern. I was no longer just defending Lily's memory. I was safeguarding my life's work. I emailed Denise a scan of the letter, asking her to cross-check it with her banking contacts. This could shift the game, she texted back. But watch your back. They're on to you. Her words echoed the anonymous texts from last night. Stay out of our business, Helen. I walked to a community garden nearby, its marigold beds, vibrant under the noon sun. I plucked a single flower, its golden petals a quiet anchor, and tucked it into my pocket. Sitting on a bench, I opened my budgeting app, linked to my Chase account. A new $2,000 withdrawal appeared, dated yesterday, funneled to Bright Future LLC, Sarah's boutique baby clothing business. My editors, I spotted the timing each transfer matched her social media boasts about new ventures. I saved the transaction details, my mind mapping their deception. This wasn't a mistake. It was calculated theft. Back home, I launched a Zoom call with Denise, her face filling my laptop screen, framed by her Macon farmhouse's wooden walls. The letter checks out, she said. The account's secure, but you need to lock down your joint account completely. I followed her steps, freezing it via Chase's app. A confirmation email arrived, sealing my first countermove. I wasn't reeling anymore. I was strategizing, each action a sentence in the story I was crafting. The next morning, I returned to the library, this time to probe Bright Future LLC's public records. On a public computer, I pulled up business databases, finding Sarah's company registered weeks before Lily's death. A linked filing revealed a $20,000 startup loan, co-signed by an unnamed investor. My gut twisted. Michael's role ran deeper than I'd feared. I printed the document, adding it to my file with Clara's recording and David's letter. I texted Denise from my burner phone. Got loan papers. Looking for more. She replied, send them. I'll check for fraud. I stopped at a neighborhood bakery, its glass case filled with pastries. The owner, a woman named Ruth, knew me from my magazine days. You seem focused, Helen, she said, handing me a croissant. I nodded, scribbling notes on a paper bag. Details, account freezes, next moves. My plan was solidifying, collect irrefutable proof, secure my finances, and expose their lies. I wasn't the naive mother Michael had counted on. That afternoon, I rummaged through my attic, hunting for more of David's documents. Among old magazine galleys, I found a note on a ticket stub from a 1995 4th of July fair, where we'd watched fireworks with Michael. Helen, you're tougher than you think, David had written. I pocketed the stub, its words spurring me on. I called Pastor James Reed, my cousin and a local minister, to set a meeting. I need your perspective, I said, keeping my voice even. He agreed, unaware of the evidence I was amassing. Later, I checked Sarah's LinkedIn on my phone, using tricks from a community tech class. A fresh post thanked a family supporter for Bright Future's growth, timestamped hours after the latest withdrawal. I saved the screenshot, my jaw tight. Michael and Sarah thought they could outsmart me, but I was closing in. I sent the screenshot to Denise, who texted back, this links them to the cache. Keep digging. That evening, I sat in my study, the Atlanta skyline, a faint glow through my blinds. I reviewed my file. David's letter, Clara's recording, loan filings, screenshots, each was a thread in their undoing. I wasn't just fighting for Lily's plot or my savings. I was reclaiming my story. But as I shut my laptop, my burner phone vibrated with a voicemail from an unknown number. You're stirring up trouble, Helen. Back off, or we'll make it worse. My fingers froze. They knew I was hunting, but who else was involved? Pastor James Reed's voice echoed through the Atlanta church's empty sanctuary, his sermon notes scattered on the pulpit as he listened to my plea. Helen, Michael told me, you wanted no part in Lily's funeral, he said, his brow furrowed. I stood before him, clutching a folder of evidence. David's letter, Clara's recording, Bright Future LLC's loan filings, my resolve forged by Michael's betrayal, his public ban from Lily's funeral, the forged cemetery plot signature, and his plot to seize my assets, had pushed me to fight. Now, I needed James's insight to uncover more. The church's stained glass windows glowed faintly, casting colored light across the pews. A stark contrast to the deception I was unraveling. I showed James the forged contract from Eternal Rest Cemetery, my voice steady. Michael lied about my wishes. James, he's stealing from me. James shook his head, stunned. I'll ask around. Helen, this doesn't sit right. I thanked him and left, driving to a quiet bar in Midtown, its neon sign flickering above, a worn oak door. Inside, I ordered a soda and opened my laptop, reviewing Denise's latest email. She'd confirmed David's secret $15,000 account was secure and flagged another $3,000 withdrawal from my joint Chase account, funneled to Bright Future LLC. My fingers tightened around the glass. Sarah's business was bleeding me dry. I called Denise from the bar's corner booth, her voice crackling over the phone. Helen, I dug into the loan filings you sent. There's a cosigner on Bright Future's $20,000. Loan your niece, Laura Bennett. My stomach dropped. Laura, my brother's daughter, had resented me since I refused her a loan years ago for a failed startup. She used your savings as collateral, Denise added. The bank accepted it based on forged documents. I hung up, my mind racing. Laura's betrayal wasn't just personal, it was a calculated strike against my future. I saved Denise's email, adding it to my growing file. I walked to a nearby riverside trail, the Chattahoochee's gentle flow calming my nerves. I picked up a smooth pebble, its cool weight grounding me, and slipped it into my pocket. My editor's instincts, honed over decades, kicked in. Laura's involvement meant the scheme was bigger than Michael and Sarah. I opened my budgeting app, spotting another withdrawal, $1,500, dated yesterday. I texted Denise from my burner phone. Laura's in deep. Check her financials. She replied, on it. Stay sharp. Back home, I set up a Zoom call with Clara Hensley, her face appearing on my screen, framed by her cozy living room. Helen, I heard Laura bragging at the grocery store, Clara said she's set for life thanks to a new deal. I shared Denise's findings, and Clara's eyes widened. That's low, even for Laura. I asked her to keep an ear out for more. After the call, I searched Laura's Facebook, using skills from a community tech class. A cryptic post read, big moves with family, futures bright. The timestamp matched the latest withdrawal. I screenshot it, my jaw tight. The next morning, I visited a local print shop, its machines humming with orders. I printed copies of my evidence, organizing them in a binder for Pastor James. The shop's clerk, a young man named Sam, recognized me from my magazine days. You're planning something big, Mrs. Reed, he said, eyeing the thick stack. I smiled faintly. Paying in cash. My plan was evolving. Expose Laura's role, protect my finances, and confront Michael's lies. I wasn't the broken mother he'd dismissed. I met James at a community center later, its walls lined with flyers for local events. I handed him the binder, explaining Laura's betrayal. She's using my savings as collateral for Sarah's loan, I said. James's face darkened. I spoke to a bank deacon, Helen. He confirmed Laura's name on the loan but said Michael pushed for it. My chest tightened. Michael had orchestrated this, pulling Laura into his web. James promised to probe further, his voice firm. That afternoon, I drove to a small antique store, its shelves cluttered with trinkets. I bought a vintage keychain engraved with a tiny star as a reminder to unlock the truth. Back home, I sorted through old financial records, finding a bank statement from years ago listing Laura as a secondary user on my account. I'd forgotten adding her during a family emergency. She'd never been removed, giving her access to forged documents. I scanned the statement, sending it to Denise. This explains the collateral, I texted. She replied, fraud, plain and simple. I checked Sarah's LinkedIn again, spotting a new post about Bright Future's expansion, dated hours after the $1,500 withdrawal. I saved it, my editors eye-catching their arrogance. They thought I wouldn't notice, but I was building a case. I called Clara, who'd overheard Laura at a neighborhood barbecue. She's nervous, Helen, Clara said, kept checking her phone, whispering about keeping things quiet. I noted it, my plan sharpening pressure Laura to crack their alliance. That evening, I sat in my backyard, the Atlanta skyline a distant shimmer. I reviewed my binder, David's letter, Clara's recording, loan filings, bank statements, screenshots. Each piece was a nail in their scheme. I wasn't just fighting for my savings, I was rewriting my story. But as I stood to go inside, my mailbox creaked open, revealing an unmarked envelope. Inside was a typed note. You're too close, Helen. Walk away, or you'll lose more than money. My pulse spiked. Someone had been to my house, and the threat felt personal. Jenny Carter's fingers danced across her tablet in the Atlanta Library's quiet corner, her volunteer badge glinting under fluorescent lights. You need to see this, Helen. she whispered, tilting the screen toward me. Michael's betrayal banning me from Lily's funeral, forging my cemetery plot signature, plotting to seize my assets, and now Laura's use of my savings as loan collateral had built a fire in me. My decades as a magazine editor had taught me to chase truth, and Jenny, a tech-savvy volunteer, was my guide into Sarah's digital world. The library's oak tables bore scratches from years of study, a fitting backdrop for unearthing more lies. Jenny pulled up Sarah's Instagram, her profile public and brimming with posts. A live stream from 3 days ago, time-stamped hours after Lily's passing, showed Sarah in a boutique, flaunting a diamond bracelet. Grateful for new blessings, she gushed, her smile wide. Comments below asked about funeral costs. Sarah replied, "We're struggling, but faith pulls us through." My blood boiled. She'd used my stolen $3,000, withdrawn that same day too, by that bracelet. I grabbed my phone, recording the screen before Sarah could delete it. Jenny's eyes widened. "That's bold, lying like that." I thanked her and drove to a local farmer's market. Its stalls vibrant with summer produced. The scent of fresh peaches grounded me as I called Denise Harper, my accountant friend in Macon. "Sarah's flaunting my money on Instagram," I said, describing the live stream. Denise's voice was sharp. "Send me the video. I'll match it to the withdrawal." I emailed the clip from my burner phone, my fingers steady. Michael and Sarah thought they could parade their theft, but I was collecting their every misstep. That I bought a single peach, its fuzzy skin soft, and tucked it into my bag as a reminder to savor each victory. Back home, I opened my laptop, checking my budgeting app. Another $1,000 withdrawal hit yesterday, funneled to Bright Future LLC. I saved the transaction, my editor's eye, linking it to Sarah's post about a new collection that morning. I texted Jenny, "Keep monitoring Sarah's Instagram. Save anything suspicious," she replied. "Got it." She's sloppy. I visited a community tech center later, its walls plastered with class schedules. Jenny met me there, showing me how to use an app to archive social media posts. We found another of Sarah's stories, boasting about a generous family donor supporting her business. The timestamp matched the $1,000 withdrawal. I saved the story, my resolve hardening. This wasn't just greed. It was a performance, and I'd caught it on tape. I thanked Jenny, who grinned. "You're like a detective, Helen." That afternoon, I drove to Laura's neighborhood, parking a block from her house. Her neighbor, Roy Tatum, was trimming hedges. "Hey, Mrs. Reed," he called, wiping sweat from his brow. "Laura's been flashing cash lately. New car, fancy bags. Said it's from a family deal." My jaw tightened. Roy's tip confirmed Laura's role in the loan scheme. I thanked him, noting his words on my phone. My plan was clear: expose Sarah's lies, pressure Laura's weak link, and dismantle their operation. Back home, I set up a Zoom call with Pastor James Reed, his face appearing on my screen, framed by his church office. "Helen, the bank deacon, confirmed Laura's on the loan," he said. Michael pushed her to join. I shared the livestream clip, and James's eyes narrowed. "This is shameful. I'll keep digging." I nodded, my voice firm. "They're unraveling." James authored the call. I printed screenshots of Sarah's posts, adding them to my binder with David's letter, Clara's recording, and loan filings. The next morning, I stopped at a local cafe, its chalkboard menu listing specials. The barista, a young woman named Mia, knew me from my magazine days. "You look determined, Mrs. Reed," she said, handing me a latte. I smiled, jotting notes on a napkin. Sarah's posts, Roy's tip, next steps. I wasn't the grieving mother Michael had dismissed. I was a hunter, tracking their every move. I checked Sarah's Instagram again, finding a new post thanking loyal supporters for Bright Future's growth. I saved it, tying it to the latest withdrawal. I called Clara from the cafe, her voice warm over the phone. "Helen, I saw Laura at a block party," she said. "She's jumpy," kept whispering to Michael about keeping things tight. I noted it, sensing Laura's nerves could break their alliance. I asked Clara to watch Laura's house for unusual activity. "Your eyes, Helen," she promised. My strategy was sharpening. Use Sarah's public lies to expose her, and exploit Laura's fear to crack their scheme. That evening, I walked to a nearby park, its swings creaking in the breeze. I sat on a bench, reviewing my binder under each piece livestream screenshots. Roy's Tippewas, a step toward justice. I wasn't just fighting for Lily's memory, I was reclaiming my dignity. But as I stood to leave, my burner phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We know you're watching, Helen. Next time, we won't warn you." My pulse raced. They'd escalated, but who was we? Clara Hensley's porch light flickered as she leaned close, her whisper urgent over a glass of sweet tea. "Helen, I overheard Sarah at the market," she said. "If you learn about Lily's real mother, their plans ruined." My binder of cemetery contracts, Clara's cafe recording, David S. letter, Laura's loan collateral, Sarah's damning livestream sat heavy in my lap. Michael's betrayal, banning me from Lily's funeral and stealing my savings, had fueled my fight. But this hint about my granddaughter's origins was a new thread to pull. My years as a magazine editor had taught me to chase loose ends, and Clara's words were a spark in the dark Atlanta night. I thanked Clara and drove to a local history museum, its brick facade quiet under moonlight. Inside, I used a public computer to access hospital records through a contact. Jenny Carter had connected me with a nurse who owed me a favor from my reporting days. A birth certificate for Lily popped up, listing Michael as the father but not Sarah as the mother. Instead, a name I didn't recognize, Emily Watson. My pulse quickened. Lily was Michael's daughter from another relationship, a secret Sarah had buried to secure a $200,000 trust fund David had left, which required my signature for non-biological family to access. I printed the certificate, tucking it into my binder. I stopped at a nearby gas station, its fluorescent lights buzzing. I bought a cheap notebook, its cover plain blue, to jot down this new lead. Standing by my car, I called Denise Harper, my accountant friend in Macon. "Lily's not Sarah's," I said, voice low. "This changes everything." Denise paused. "That trust fund's the key, Helen. They're hiding this to get your signature." I texted her a scan of the birth certificate from my burner phone, asking her to verify it. "This is fraud," she replied. "Find Emily." Back home, I opened my laptop, searching for Emily Watson online. My community tech class skills paid off. A Facebook profile showed a woman in her 30s, living in Savannah, with no mention of Lily. I messaged her, carefully worded, "I'm Helen Reed, Michael's mother. Can we talk about Lily?" No reply yet, but I saved the message. My plan was shifting: expose Sarah's deception, find Emily, and block their access to the trust. I wasn't just protecting my money, I was guarding Lily's legacy. The next morning, I visited a local bookstore, its shelves packed with paperbacks. The clerk, an old colleague named Mark, recognized me. "You're on a mission, Helen," he said, ringing up a pen I bought. I nodded, scribbling notes in the notebook: birth certificate, Emily's profile, trust fund details. I checked my budgeting app, spotting a new $2,500 withdrawal to Bright Future LLC, Sarah's company, dated yesterday. I saved the transaction, linking it to a new Instagram post from Sarah about family support. My jaw clenched. She was taunting me. I called Pastor James Reed from the bookstore's parking lot, his voice steady over the phone. "Helen, I found a trust document at the church, from David's estate. It needs your signature for anyone but you or Lily to access it." I shared the birth certificate, and James gasped. "Sarah's not her mother. That's why they kept you away." I asked him to secure a copy of the trust. "It's safe with me," he promised. I texted Jenny, "Search for Emily Watson's contacts. Urgent," she replied, digging now. That afternoon, I drove to a community center, its bulletin board crowded with event flyers. I pinned up a photo of Lily, a quiet act to keep her memory alive. A woman approached, introducing herself as Lisa, a volunteer. "I knew Michael years ago," she said. "He dated someone named Emily before Sarah. They split when she got pregnant." My heart raced. This confirmed the certificate. I thanked Lisa, adding her tip to my notebook. My strategy was clear: track Emily, secure the trust, and expose Sarah's lie. Back home, I set up a Zoom call with Clara, her face framed by her porch swing. "Helen, Sarah's been calling Laura, sounding frantic," she said. "They're worried about you." I shared Lisa's tip, and Clara's eyes widened. "You're close to breaking them." I asked her to monitor Sarah's market visits for more slips. After the call, I checked Sarah's Instagram again. A new story showed her at a charity event, claiming grief fuels our work. I saved it, her hypocrisy fueling my drive. That evening, I walked to a nearby lake, its surface reflecting the Atlanta skyline. I sat on a bench, reviewing my binder, birth certificate, trust details, screenshots. Each piece tightened the noose around Michael and Sarah. I wasn't just fighting for justice, I was rewriting Lily's story. But as I headed home, my burner phone buzzed with a reply from Emily Watson. I'm Lily's mother. Meet me in Savannah tomorrow. They can't know. My breath caught. A new ally, but a new risk. Why the secrecy? Patricia Monroe's law office smelled of polished wood and coffee, her desk stacked with files as she scanned my binder. Helen, this birth certificate and trust document are gold, she said, her voice steady. My fight against Michael's betrayal, banning me from Lily's funeral, forging my signature, plotting to seize my assets, using my savings as loan collateral, and hiding Lily's true mother had led me to this moment. Emily's message from Savannah, urging secrecy, had sharpened my focus, and my years as a magazine editor had taught me to seize opportunities. Patricia's Atlanta office, tucked in a high-rise with city views, was my new battleground. I was checking my burner phone when an email notification pinged, sent from Laura Bennett's personal account, addressed to Sarah but mistakenly copied to me. Sarah, we split the trust fund 50/50 once Michael's out. He's too greedy, it read, detailing a plan to forge my signature again for the $200,000 trust. My pulse surged. Laura was double-crossing Michael, and her error was my weapon. I forwarded the email to Patricia, who leaned back, stunned. This is fraud and conspiracy. We can nail them. I left her office and drove to a local craft store, its aisles brimming with ribbon and paint. I bought a small paperweight, etched with a compass, to anchor my resolve. At the checkout, I called Denise Harper, my accountant friend in Macon. Laura's plotting against Michael, I said, summarizing the email. Denise's voice was crisp. Send it to me. I'll trace the trust transactions. I texted her the email from my burner phone, my fingers steady. Their alliance was cracking, and I'd widened the fracture. I stopped at a nearby plaza, its fountain bubbling under the noon sun. Sitting on a bench, I opened my budgeting app, spotting a new $4,000 withdrawal to Bright Future LLC, Sarah's company, dated yesterday. I saved the transaction, linking it to a new LinkedIn post from Sarah about major investments. My editors, I caught their recklessness. They thought I was blind. I texted Jenny Carter, check Laura's socials for trust mentions. She replied, on it, she's panicking online. Back home, I set up a Zoom call with Pastor James Reed, his face appearing on my screen, framed by his church study. Helen, I found a bank memo tied to the trust, he said. It confirms Laura's been sniffing around it. I shared the email, and James's jaw tightened. She's betraying her own cousin. I'll get more from my bank contact. I thanked him, my plan sharpening. Use Laura's mistake to pit them against each other, and lock the trust. I wasn't just defending my finances, I was dismantling their greed. The next morning, I visited a local stationery shop, its shelves lined with journals. The owner, a retiree named Ellen, knew me from my magazine days. You're up to something, Helen, she said, handing me a receipt. I smiled, jotting notes on it. Laura's email, trust memo, next steps. I checked Sarah's LinkedIn again, finding a post boasting about family unity in Bright Future's success. I saved it, her lies fueling my drive. I called Clara Hensley, who'd seen Laura at a community event. She's jumpy, Helen, Clara said. Kept arguing with Sarah on the phone. I noted it. Sensing their rift growing, I drove to Patricia's office again, delivering printed copies of the email and bank memo. We're building a case, she said, scanning the documents. But we need to act fast before they destroy evidence. I nodded, my voice firm. I'm ready. She suggested confronting Laura to record a confession, but I hesitated to risk yet. Instead, I asked her to draft a cease and desist letter to Bright Future LLC, citing fraud. Patricia agreed, her pen moving swiftly. My strategy was clear: expose Laura's double-cross, pressure Sarah, and protect the trust. That afternoon, I stopped at a local deli, its counter bustling with lunch orders. The cashier, a young man named Nate, recognized me. You look focused, Mrs. Reed, he said, handing me a sandwich. I scribbled notes on a napkin: legal steps, Laura's motives, Emily's role. I wasn't the broken mother Michael had dismissed. I was a strategist, turning their mistakes against them. I texted Denise. Any trust transfers yet? She replied, none, but Laura's been calling banks. Later, I walked to a neighborhood garden, its roses trimmed neatly. I sat on a bench, reviewing my binder, birth certificate, trust memo, Laura's email, screenshots. Each piece was a step toward justice. I called Jenny, who'd found a cryptic tweet from Laura, "Some families not worth keeping." I saved it, her disloyalty glaring. My plan was to let their infighting unravel them while I secured the trust with Emily's help. That evening, I sat in my dining room, the Atlanta skyline faint through my window. I opened my laptop, organizing my evidence for Patricia. I wasn't just fighting for Lily's legacy. I was reclaiming my power. But as I saved my files, my burner phone vibrated with a voicemail from an unknown number. "You're playing a dangerous game, Helen. We're watching your every move." My heart pounded. Pastor James Reed adjusted the microphone in the Atlanta Church's fellowship hall, the hum of the crowd settling as he introduced me, my binders stuffed with the forged cemetery contract, Clara's recording, David's letter, Laura's loan collateral, Sarah's livestream, Lily's birth certificate, and Laura's betraying email sit in my bag, a testament to Michael's deceit, Emily's secretive message from Savannah, and the chilling voicemail from an unknown voice had pushed me to this moment. My editor's instincts, honed over decades, told me to seize the stage. The hall's wooden beams and folding chairs, filled with community members, were my platform to expose the truth. I stepped to the podium, my voice steady. "My granddaughter Lily deserved better than lies," I began, recounting Michael's ban from her funeral and the theft of my savings. I played Clara's recording, Michael's voice scheming to cut me out of the family will. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I showed Sarah's Instagram livestream, her diamond bracelet glinting. "Paid with my stolen $3,000. A young woman in the front row recorded my speech on her phone. "They hid Lily's true mother to steal her trust fund," I said, holding up the birth certificate. The room erupted in murmurs. As I left the podium, Jenny Carter, the library volunteer, approached, her eyes wide. "Helen, that speech is going viral," she said, showing me her phone. The woman's video had hit Twitter, racking up thousands of views. Comments called for justice, tagging local news outlets. I thanked Jenny and drove to a local diner, its jukebox playing softly. Over coffee, I called Patricia Monroe, my lawyer. "The speech is spreading," I said, forwarding Jenny's screenshot of the Twitter post. Patricia's voice was firm. "This pressure's Bright Future LLC. Expect push." I bought a small key tag from the diner's gift rack, its metal engraved with hope, to remind me of this turning point. Sitting at the counter, I checked my budgeting app. Another $2,000 withdrawal to Bright Future LLC, dated today. I saved the transaction, linking it to a new LinkedIn post from Sarah about community support. My jaw tightened. Their arrogance was crumbling under public scrutiny. I texted Denise Harper. "Speech went viral. Check for trust transfers." She replied, "Nothing yet, but banks are watching." Back home, I opened my laptop, finding an email from a local reporter, Mia Chen, who'd seen the video. "Mrs. Reed, can I interview you about Bright Future's fraud?" she asked. I agreed, scheduling a Zoom call. During the call, I shared Laura's email, revealing her plot to split the trust with Sarah. Mia's eyes widened. "This could shut them down," she said, promising a story by morning. I thanked her. My plan advancing, leveraged the viral video to expose their crimes and lock the trust with Emily's help. The next morning, I visited a community art gallery, its walls lined with local paintings. The curator, an old friend named Tom, recognized me. "Helen, your speech is all over the news," he said, pointing to a TV in the corner, showing Mia's report. I smiled faintly, buying a postcard of a sunrise to mark this breakthrough. I called Clara Hensley, who'd seen Sarah at a market, looking shaken. "She's dodging questions about the video," Clara said. I noted it, sensing their panic. I drove to a local park, its trails shaded by oaks. Sitting on a bench, I reviewed my binder, now a public weapon. The viral video had shifted the fight, drawing eyes to Michael, Sarah, and Laura. I texted Jenny, "Monitor Twitter for Bright Future mentions." She replied, "It's blowing up. People are digging into their finances." My strategy was working: amplify the truth, pressure their weak links, and protect Lily's legacy. I wasn't just fighting for justice, I was rewriting their downfall. That afternoon, I stopped at a corner bakery, its glass case filled with pastries. The baker, a woman named Lisa, knew me from my magazine days. "You're shaking things up, Helen," she said, handing me a scone. I scribbled notes on a napkin: reporter's story, social media traction, next legal steps. I checked Sarah's LinkedIn, A new post claimed misunderstandings about Bright Futures funding. I saved it, her desperation clear. I called Patricia, who'd sent the cease and desist letter to Bright Future. "They're scrambling," she said. "We're close." Later, I walked to a nearby community center, its bulletin board crowded with flyers. I pinned up a photo of Lily, a quiet act of defiance. A man approached, introducing himself as Greg, a former Bright Future supplier. "I saw your speech," he said. "They owe me $5,000 for unpaid orders." I noted his contact, adding his tip to my evidence. The public was turning, and their empire was cracking. That evening, I sat in my living room, the Atlanta skyline glowing faintly. I opened my laptop, watching the Twitter video hit 50,000 views. Mia's article was live, detailing Bright Futures fraught with my evidence. I wasn't just a betrayed mother. I was a force, turning their lies against them. But as I closed my laptop, my burner phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You've gone too far. Helen, you'll pay for this exposure." My heart raced. Emily Watson's hands trembled as she handed me a notarized letter in a Savannah cafe, its windows fogged from the coastal mist. "Helen, I want Lily's trust fund to go to a children's hospital," she said, her voice soft but firm. My binder packed with the forged cemetery contract, Clara's recording, David's letter, Laura's loan collateral, Sarah's livestream, Lily's birth certificate, Laura's betraying email, and my viral speech had brought me to this moment. The threatening text after my speech, vowing I'd pay for this exposure, had only steeled my resolve. My editor's instincts, sharpened over decades, told me to close the fight. The cafe's wooden tables, scratched from years of use, grounded me as I signed the trust transfer with Emily. Patricia Monroe, my lawyer, met us there, reviewing the letter. "This locks out Michael and Sarah," she said, stamping it. I called Denise Harper, my accountant friend, to confirm the $200,000 trust transferred to Atlanta Children's Hospital. "It's done," Denise said. "Sarah tried diverting it to an offshore account yesterday, but I flagged it." My pulse surged. Sarah's final move, a desperate grab, had failed. I texted Patricia the bank alert Denise sent, showing Sarah's attempt. "Fraud charges are next," Patricia replied. I drove to a Savannah pier, its boards creaking underfoot. I bought a small seashell pendant, its ridges worn smooth, to mark this victory. Standing by the railing, I checked my phone, finding a Twitter post from Jenny Carter. "Bright Future LLC's accounts seized. Sarah's under investigation." Mia Chen's latest article detailed Sarah's offshore attempt, citing my evidence. I texted Jenny, "It's over, thank you." She replied, "You're a warrior, Helen." Back in Atlanta, I visited a local library, its quiet stacks a refuge. I called Clara, who'd seen Michael at a gas station, alone. "He's furious, Helen," she said. "Sarah's blaming him." I noted it, their alliance shattered by Laura's betrayal and my public fight. I checked Sarah's LinkedIn. Her profile was gone, deleted amid the scandal. My plan had worked: expose their greed, secure the trust, and let their lies collapse. I wasn't just reclaiming my savings, I was honoring Lily's memory. The next morning, I met Pastor James Reed at a community hall, its walls lined with event posters. "Helen, the hospital's dedicating a wing to Lily," he said, showing me a draft plaque. I shared the trust transfer, and James nodded. "You've done right by her." I asked him to organize a memorial for Lily, open to all but Michael and Sarah. "It's set," he promised. I texted Emily, "The hospital's honoring Lily. Join us." She replied, "I'll be there." I stopped at a local flower shop, its air sweet with blooms. The florist, an old friend named Ruth, recognized me. "You're making waves, Helen," she said, arranging a bouquet for Lily's memorial. I scribbled notes on a receipt: trust transfer, hospital wing, legal next steps. My strategy was complete. Justice for Lily, punishment for the guilty, closure for me. I called Patricia, who'd filed fraud charges against Sarah and Michael. "They're cornered," she said. That afternoon, I walked to a neighborhood plaza, its clock tower chiming softly. I sat on a bench, reviewing my binder, now a relic of my fight. Each piece: birth certificate, email, viral video, had built a case that broke their scheme. I texted Denise, "Any more transfers?" She replied, "Clean, you won." I checked Twitter. Mia's article had 100,000 views, with comments praising Lily's legacy. Their downfall was public, and I'd orchestrated it. Later, I visited the hospital, its halls bustling with staff. A nurse showed me the planned wing, a sketch of a plaque reading Lily Reed Memorial. I placed my wedding ring, engraved with forever, beside the sketch, a final tribute to David and Lily. Emily arrived, her eyes teary. "You gave her justice," she said, hugging me. I nodded, my heart steady. I wasn't just a betrayed mother. I was a victor, rewriting their story. That evening, I stood before the hospital's donor wall, the Atlanta skyline faint outside. I looked back on my journey, not with anger or sorrow, but with the calm of a survivor who'd faced every blow. Michael's ban from Lily's funeral had shattered me, but each step finding David's letter, exposing Sarah's live stream, uncovering Lily's true mother, and turning Laura's betrayal against them, rebuilt me. I'd lost my son, but gained a truth colder than any grief. Family can wound deeper than strangers, and loyalty is earned, not owed. For those betrayed at home, my fight taught me this: don't beg for fairness. Build it with proof and patience. To anyone facing their own darkness, I say, gather your evidence, find your allies, and strike when the truth is undeniable. Your strength isn't in forgiving, it's in outlasting. If you followed this story, join me for the next one. Subscribe to the channel and let's keep fighting for truth together.